A 12-year-old girl pressed 4 crumpled dollars into a stranger's palm at a gas station. She didn't know he wore a patch, feared in every town. Didn't know that money represented 2 years of saving for school supplies. What she couldn't have known: by morning, 1,000 motorcycles would thunder down her street, and her grandmother would open the door to an army of leather and chrome, all there to repay a debt the world couldn't understand. This is the story of Maya Thompson, and it will restore your faith in humanity. Maya was 12 years old, soft-spoken, the kind of child who said, "Yes, ma'am," and "No, sir," to neighbors who barely noticed her. She lived with her grandmother, Clara Thompson, 68, in a weathered house on Walker Street, where dreams withered under unpaid bills and flickering porch lights. Clara said Maya was born with an old soul, the kind that feels storms before they break, and mercy before the world knows it's needed. Every afternoon after school, Maya slipped off her battered shoes and stepped into chores most kids would never touch. Sweeping steps, bagging groceries for the old man 3 doors down, raking leaves she didn't scatter. Every coin she earned, every wrinkled dollar, dropped into a glass jar on her nightstand. A jam jar with peeling letters scrawled in blue marker. Dreams, mostly nickels and dimes, a few stray quarters when she swept the church hall. Clara told her it was for college, or maybe nursing school if the Lord saw fit. A quiet promise tucked between bedtime prayers and the rattle of the old radiator. On a Tuesday that smelled like gasoline and hot pavement, Maya carried that jar in her backpack, planning to trade the coins for notebooks and new socks. But halfway down Walker Street, she saw him, leaning beside a crooked gas pump that hadn't seen fresh paint in 20 years. He was big, bigger than her uncle, wrapped in sun-faded leather, white beard curling like smoke, boots scuffed, knuckles raw. His bike leaned awkward on its stand, like it might collapse, and in his giant hands, just a scatter of coins, quarters and pennies that didn't add up to enough. Maya stopped a few steps away. She felt her grandmother's voice inside her. "Don't stare." But she stared anyway. Not at the tattoos curling down his forearms, not at the faded patch on his vest, but at his eyes. Tired eyes that had been waiting too long for someone to see past the leather. She could have walked on. Nobody would blame a small black girl for keeping her head down around a man who looked like trouble carved in leather. But Maya never learned to flinch at the rough edges of people. She stepped closer, jaw pressed to her chest like a secret. When the man looked up, she could see he'd been counting the coins over and over, like maybe the math would change if he stared hard enough. He started to say something. Maybe, "Don't bother," or "I'm fine." But she cut him off with the tiny rattle of glass and copper. She popped the lid with trembling fingers and poured out everything. $4.27, every coin she had, right into his enormous, grease-cracked palm. For a second he just held it there. The coins looked small in that palm, like a child's offering to a giant. He opened his mouth, shut it, tried to speak but found no words. So he asked the only thing he could manage. "Why?" Maya shrugged like it was nothing. "You look tired," she said softly, barely above the traffic noise. "My grandma says when you can help, you help." That's it. She didn't wait for thanks, didn't ask his name. She slipped her empty jar back into her bag and turned toward the cracked sidewalk, walking away like she'd just handed over spare gum. Not her whole dreams jar in one breath. Behind her, the man, Wade Ironside Jackson, though she didn't know his name yet, stood frozen under the blinking neon. The coins clinked gently in his hand, like a reminder of something he'd almost forgotten how to believe in. When her small frame disappeared around the corner, Wade didn't climb on his bike. He didn't count the coins again. Instead, he pulled a battered phone from his vest pocket and scrolled through names he hadn't dialed in years. Men who rode through fire for a brother who asked only once. He pressed one number, brought the phone to his ear. His voice cracked. "Brothers," he said, "I need you to listen." Somewhere far off, an engine roared to life. If you believe that one small act of kindness can change the world, hit that subscribe button to The Last Riders. Because what happens next will prove that mercy echoes farther than we ever imagine. Let's see what Maya's $4 created. The next morning came soft and gray. In the tiny house on the corner, Maya swept breadcrumbs, while Clara hummed an old hymn that floated through the screen door. Maya hadn't thought much about the coins. When Clara asked why her dreams jar sat empty, she just said, "I'll fill it up again, Grandma." Clara kissed her forehead, the way grandmothers do when they're proud but too worried to say so. Around noon, when the neighborhood settled into its usual hush, the low rumble broke the calm. At first, Clara thought it was thunder. Then the rumble grew, and grew, and grew. From the window, Maya watched as motorcycles began pouring onto Walker Street. Not one, not 10, hundreds, then more. They filled the street, the sidewalks, the empty lots, chrome gleaming, leather creaking, engines idling like a sleeping dragon. Clara stepped onto the porch, one hand clutching her chest. Her other hand reached for Maya, pulling her close. "Sweet Jesus," Clara whispered. "What's happening?" The neighbors emerged, some fearful, some curious, all stunned. Mrs. Henderson across the street locked her door. Mr. Davis grabbed his phone, ready to call police. Then a man climbed off the lead bike. Big, white beard, sun-faded leather. Wade. He walked up the cracked pathway to Clara's porch, removed his bandana, and stood at the bottom of the steps. "Ma'am." His voice was rough like gravel. "My name is Wade Jackson. Yesterday, your granddaughter gave me something I didn't deserve, and she gave it without asking for anything back." Clara's grip on Maya tightened. "She gave me $4.27, Wade continued, his voice cracking. "Everything she had. When I had nothing. When everyone else looked past me like I was invisible, he gestured to the sea of bikers behind him. These are my brothers, the Last Riders. We come from 6 states, and we're here because that little girl reminded us what honor looks like." Clara's eyes filled with tears. "We're not here to scare you, ma'am. We're here to say thank you, and to repay a debt we can never truly settle." For the next 8 hours, Walker Street transformed. 1,000 bikers, tattooed, scarred, feared, became a construction crew. They rebuilt Clara's collapsing porch, painted the house, fixed the broken fence, replaced rotting boards, installed new windows. Some brought groceries, bags and bags of food that filled Clara's pantry for months. Others brought school supplies for Maya, backpacks, notebooks, a new winter coat. One rider, an older man with tears in his eyes, pressed an envelope into Clara's hand. "For the girls' college fund," he said, "from all of us." Inside, $12,000 in cash and checks. Clara collapsed onto the porch steps, sobbing. Maya sat beside her, small hand in her grandmother's weathered one. The neighbors, who'd been watching with suspicion, slowly came out. They brought lemonade, sandwiches, tools to help. Mrs. Henderson, who'd locked her door in fear, brought cookies. "I judged wrong," she said quietly to Wade. "Thank you for showing us better." By sunset, Walker Street looked different. Not just Clara's house, other homes too. The bikers had spread out, fixing Mrs. Garcia's broken gate, mowing Mr. Davis's overgrown yard, painting Mrs. Henderson's mailbox. One community, rebuilt by hands the world had taught them to fear. As the sun dipped low, Wade knelt in front of Maya. He pulled a worn leather patch from his vest, the same patch that had scared people for 30 years. "This is for you," he said, pinning it gently to her jacket. "Means you're family now. means you ride with us, even when you're standing still." He pressed something else into her palm, a silver coin worn smooth. "Biker tradition. You never run out of road money if you keep a coin from a brother." Other riders approached. Each left something small: a pin, a chain, a hand-carved cross. Tokens of respect from men and women who'd seen the world's hardest roads. Clara stood at the top of the steps, arms folded to keep her bones from trembling. Wade climbed those steps last. He didn't speak first, just opened his arms wide enough for Clara to see the boy he used to be, hidden beneath leather and road dust. She let him fold her in. Old woman and older man, holding tight like something fragile had passed between them. "If anyone ever messes with her," Wade murmured, voice so low it curled into her ear like a vow, "they mess with us." Clara pulled back enough to see his eyes, softer now, tired but burning with a promise. She nodded once, a quiet amen. Maya stood a few feet back, the tokens clutched to her chest. She watched as Wade swung a leg over his bike. Engines fired awake one by one, a soft rumble that rolled under doorsteps like an old song half remembered. The convoy didn't roar reckless. They drifted off slow, patches catching the wind. Maya didn't wave. She didn't need to. Some goodbyes stay stitched under your skin. That night, tucked under her pillow, Maya found a note. Grease smudged at the corner, where a thumb held it too long. Her name scratched across the front in Wade's rough scrawl. She unfolded it slow. "Keep helping people. Someday, you'll wear your own patch. Wade." Simple as that. A promise that kindness rides longer than any road. Time rolled on. The porch stayed bright under fresh paint. Clara's laugh came easier when she rocked on that swing. Maya took the money and poured it back into the cracks that birthed her. A pantry grew under the old carport, shelves stacked with cans, bread, hope. Kids from 3 streets over lined up, shy at first, then braver. No questions asked, no forms signed, just a bag and a word of hope. Sometimes at dusk, when the street dipped quiet, the hush would break. The distant roll of a single engine weaving through side streets. Wade never knocked, never lingered. Just a figure under a helmet, chrome flickering like a ghost, a reminder that some debts pay themselves forward forever. Maya kept Wade's note taped to her mirror. Every dawn, a road map written in 10 rough words, a reminder that even a coin jar labeled dreams can build something bigger than itself. The block never forgot how one small act cracked open an army's heart, how a girl with dirt under her nails and hope in her palms turned a hungry corner house into a beacon. One small coin, one act of kindness, and 1,000 roaring reminders that even the roughest souls remember who showed them grace. If this story moved you, if it reminded you that kindness matters more than fear, subscribe to The Last Riders for more true stories of unexpected heroes and the bonds that change lives. Tell us in the comments, have you ever helped a stranger when it wasn't convenient? Have you witnessed mercy in unexpected places? Your story might inspire someone to choose compassion over judgment. Share this with someone who needs to remember. The smallest acts create the biggest ripples. And sometimes, the people the world tells you to fear are the ones who will stand beside you when it matters most. You never know when $4 might change 1,000 lives.